Hello and welcome. My name is Laurel Papworth, and this is the social media news for the week of the 13th of June. So, the first thing that I saw this morning, and I prepped some other stuff, but this one was interesting, it just come in, was that Jennifer Aniston said, and I'm going to read it to you, the thing of people becoming famous for basically doing nothing, and I want you to remember that. For basically doing nothing, I mean, see Paris Hilton, Monica Lewinsky, all those. I'm assuming she also means the Kardashians. You're famous from TikTok, you're famous from YouTube, you're famous from Instagram. It's sort of almost like it's diluting our actor's job. Now, one of the things I think that I would do is separate out celebrity from acting. They're two quite different things. But secondly, to also remember that the people who are famous on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, have worked really hard there on a broad range of skills. So, for example, they come up with the concept and the format. So they're the kind of showrunner. They then have to research and write, script writers. They then have to learn how to film themselves. And yes, I know my lighting's all over the place, but you get the idea. They then have to learn how to edit. They then have to put it up online, which means facing a crowd. And then they have to learn how to do marketing. There's plenty of brilliant things up on social media that nobody ever sees. There's lots of crap that lots of people see. But bringing all of those things together makes for a broad skill set. If you think of the, what does she call it? The actor's job. There's scriptwriters, there's producers, executive producers, there's editors, and a lot of that stuff is out of the actor's control. Now, later on, influencers build out their teams, and I imagine that actors become directors and producers and writers quite often as well. I haven't looked into the numbers, but I'm sure they do. And I just was a little bit I guess, kind of confused. If somebody does a better job of building an audience than you do, then look at what they do. Assess what they do. Understand it. You don't have to be narrow niche. You can go broad. So it's the democratization of fame. Talking about the democratization of fame, I want to talk about a really upsetting incident that's been developing over the last few days, and that's Rebel Wilson. So the Sydney Morning Herald, I believe, wanted to out Rebel for having a female lover, girlfriend. And they wrote to her and said, basically, we're going to out you. Can we have a quote? So she decided to disintermediate media, which I talked about in the last video, and outed herself. The fact that she has to out herself is shameful anyway. But I was very interested to see the journalists throwing tantrums that the story was taken away from them. And I just want to say, no, mate, that wasn't your story to tell. Secondly, the only reason you want that story is to sell advertising next to it. And thirdly, the age of heritage media, legacy media, stealing the stories from the community in order to package them and sell them back to the community. I think that age has come and gone, and I, for one, won't miss it. So don't let the door hit your overly advertised bottom on the way out. I saw something about 4 days ago from Rick Beato, who's a musician on YouTube, and he said that this young musician only had 24 followers on Spotify and should have a lot more. Let's rally behind him. It's a little bit like Follow Friday on the platforms where you nominate people and you suggest that people follow them. And when I checked, 4 days had gone past and this guy had just shy of 7,000 followers, from 24 to 7,000. I love that part of an industry that can accept frenemies, can accept partners who are competitors. And whenever I see an influencer recommending other influencers or working well within the community, I'm like, yes, that's what it's about. It's about collaboration, not competition. And you can be competitive, and you can have fun, and you can gamify the competition in any way you want. It could be around gigs, it could be around money, it could be around sponsorship, it doesn't matter. But bring your love of your mates into that as well, because at the end of the day, it should all be friendly. And I will say, in social media, most of social media experts, we all get along well. We kind of know each other, but we also know who might have an issue and not be as friendly or try to diss everybody, and we stay away from them. We don't support them. So be the person that supports other people, and remember, a rising tide lifts all boats, lifts all ships. Forget the exact saying. Meaning that if you work together and you build an industry together, you will all benefit from it. There's no doubt about that. I want to go into platform news now. And the first one we're going to talk about is Twitter. During the Australian election on May the 21st, there were 250,000 election tweets in the one day. There's also been an analysis of all the candidates and who had the most tweets around or about them. I think it was from April something. I'll put it up on the screen. And one area that I think Twitter needs to expand on, all the platforms do, and I know that they are, is sentiment analysis, because sometimes a political candidate can trend for positive reasons, and other times they're just not going to go anywhere because of the sentiment in the community. So once we have an AI with sentiment analysis that can really look at and understand the flow and the on-the-fenceness of people, not sure that's a term, but you know what I mean, then we can really get some good analytics out of that. Now, Twitter does have that. If you go into their advanced analytics area and you put in hashtags, you can check things. But I think it needs to be better. And I would have thought it would have been better by now, especially since they bought that Blue Wow AI agency, something like that. They do sentiment analysis. For LinkedIn news, 3 days ago, there was an announcement that company pages now have lead gen forms. This would be similar to Facebook's lead gen forms. I was also really interested to see that it's possible now to comment as your page, which helps a lot with conversations rather than having to comment and then state who you are in the company or whatever. Boosting events. I'm a big believer in boosting, but into warm leads. I wouldn't do boosting with cold across any platform, but boosting with warm, perfectly fine with. So that's the LinkedIn news for this week. Meta have said that they have 3 top tips for moving into the metaverse. Those top tips are: let the creators create. So user-generated content as a marketing strategy. Find your reason for being there. Find your reason for being there means aligning your purpose and values as an organization with your fans' purpose and values. There's no point you trying to preach to them about products when they're looking for something else from you. And fans first mindset. That always works on social. Otherwise, you're advertising, you're doing bought attention, you're spamming people as opposed to earning attention from them. Meta said that the metaverse will have a $3 trillion impact. Whatever. And Wendyverse. So Wendy's Burgers was the first Wendyverse, the first metaverse in Horizon World. I'm interested to see where this goes when the usual suspects have moved on. So just to let you know, H&M were the biggest users of Facebook when it was new. And you'll often find fast food, Wendy's, fast fashion, H&M, cosmetics and things like that are the big players, and the other two are porn and gaming. And a lot of the initial interest comes from somebody who's a developer and wants to migrate their personal passions, such as a virtual game, virtual world, into new tech. So the reason why we have mics and cameras and webcams and dual monitors and things like that is often because that's what the geek wanted to play games with, and then they develop it when they're working for a tech company. So once we get past that initial fast food, fast fashion thing, it'll be interesting to see where the metaverse goes. I don't like the boring voice that Meta uses. I think that corporate vanilla, oh, you can have a meeting and sit around a table, is not exciting. My 3 tips would be quite different than theirs. Mine would be backstory and the welcome video. What is the storytelling that you're going to bring to this metaverse that makes people go, wow, it's like participating in a TV show or something? And then the second one would be onboarding, because if you don't get people over that initial first few minutes, then it's going to be a problem. It's like dating or job interviews. Those first few minutes are critical. So how we onboard, the rituals and rites of passage, like that we build within community, is critical. I don't know if you've looked at any of the social psychology papers around building online communities, but it's not that different from bog standard anthropology. We have to have the rituals and the rites of passage. So that would definitely be my second one, is bringing in, first one is story time, second one is onboarding, and then my third one I would have to choose probably pugs. So pugs are when we move through life or through any community, and it stands for pickup group. And if we don't initiate a pickup group, then we move through life very lonely. Later on, you can have a guild or you can have a set group, and it's the guys you always meet and you know them really well. But that initial instance is people that you meet temporarily. And it could be around a purpose or a goal. So as part of your onboarding could be to encourage people to gamify partnering up and achieving goals together, making sure you've got that feedback loop. But yeah, I just have a different set, I guess, so that's fine. And that's it for today. Thank you. I hope you found that interesting. My name is Laurel Papworth, and I'll be back next week with more social media news and answering your questions. Don't forget to leave me your questions so I can answer them. But I have got a little list of them now, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. See you soon. Bye. Loop, 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 loop. Right. I can't get that lighting right.